It's time again to hit the strip for the Euro Drag Race Series. We're in England this weekend at Sandipod Raceway for their main event. And being featured in the main event, the nitro-burning Top Fuel dragsters. They're the stars of the show for this first round of the 1995 season. Also racing are the awesome door slammers, the Pro Modifieds, and more nitro racing from Top Fuel Bike. But first, let's take a look at the qualifying results for Top Fuel Dragster. Andy Carter here in the number 6 spot. The first time ever for this man competing in a major event, and it's only his second time in a 9-second run.
Well, the car feels good. For the first time out, we're really happy with how it's gone. The crew have all worked really hard. So we're just pleased to be here, really. We're not expecting any miracles. We're just going to be out there.
Now you're used to success because you've won the Outlaw Anglia Championship a couple of times, and you're sort of a winner of races. In Top Fuel, if you get the car to work the way you want, is it going to be any different?
No, it's not going to be any different at all. I think I need a little bit more backing for it, and then we can start pushing the car as hard as we like. And I think I can definitely take these people on.
Now you're the second rookie in the contingent in Top Fuel today. How are you sitting in the Top Fuel seat compared to an Outlaw Anglia? A bit of a different ride, I would expect.
Oh, it's a completely different ball game. You know, this is a proper race car, whereas the Anglia felt like a hot rod. You're hanging onto it all the way down. This actually feels like you're part of the car.
Tommy Happonen from Finland did not have a good qualifying day. He finished up 5th in the lineup with a 5.58 second pass. Well, this man finished 3rd in the championship last year, so this is well below par for him. But he is a worrier. All of the other Top Fuel drivers fear this young man. He's come into this class of racing at the top end, and he is Mr. Consistency. His results always show that if he sets his sights at one level, he keeps to that level right the way through the racing day. He's going to be hard to beat.
After yesterday's qualifying, your crew didn't look very happy.
No, we don't. Our car not work any run. There's big problem and we don't found it, but last night I think it's okay now.
So not too confident then?
No.
Risto Putiainen, the original flying Finn, qualified in the number 4 spot with a 5.40 behind his personal rival Tommy Happonen after troubles with the crankshaft. Now Risto is no stranger to winning Top Fuel events, and a blackened crank won't keep this man away from the start line come elimination time.
You're up against Rico Antes in the first round. You're 5.40 against his 5.37. Looks like it will be the repeat of the Hockenheim final last year that never was.
Yeah, it's always hard to compete with Rico. They are very sharp, and I think 5.37 is not even close what they are capable to do. But I would say that McTool's Traxxer is capable to do better than 5.42.
Rico Antes from Germany wants to keep the numbers low and the miles per hour high. He qualified in the number 3 spot with a 5.37 and meets the Finn Risto Putiainen in round 1.
Yeah, I really like to have another chance at him, so we can maybe complete what we didn't complete last year. It's always nice to have a good competitor next to you. It makes more fun racing it.
This is the new kid on the block. Jens Niveau from Denmark, just up from Top Alcohol. Now, he surprised all of us with a run of 5.33 in a Peter Lantz-built dragster, putting him above his more experienced rivals in the number 2 spot. Everybody thinks this young man has got a promising future in Top Fuel.
The first meeting for you in Top Fuel, and you qualified number 2, and you got the highest mile per hour in the qualifying session. That's an amazing achievement.
Yes. That's for sure.
You must be very happy with yourself.
I am very, very happy. And I can thank Peter Lantz and his crew for it, and my own crew and my crew chief, Carsten Elon.
Okay, so in the first round you're racing Tommy Happonen in the Finn. Now he went right through to the finals last year in the World Finals. He's very close to you in qualifying times.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough race.
Yeah, very tough, I think. But I hope I can take him on the Christmas tree.
Now let's have a look at Vivica Everstad from Sweden and the run that got her the number 1 spot and a new track record. Well, here it is. the all-new car for Viveca Everstedt for the 1995 season. This has got everything in here. It's a Swindahl chassis, one of the top chassis builders in the States. It's got a Jim Brock setup on this engine, and look at this car fly! Absolutely flies through it. Damage at the top end, but just look at that magic time that comes up on the scoreboard. 5:05, the quickest ever in Europe, and I bet Viveca is in a state of shock.
It's hard to believe that it's true, but yeah, I'm very happy about it.
Now, in yesterday's qualifying, you did a 5:05, which is the fastest run ever in Europe, and you did a 2:49 mile per hour. Now, that's really low compared to all the other cars mile per hour. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, the reason is that I think it was the half track. We dropped cylinders, and then we damaged a lot of parts in the engine. So, of course, if the engine it should be a better time if it didn't happen.
So basically that means that 5:05 should have been a 4 something.
Absolutely, I mean maybe a high 4 or something, absolutely.
So the possibility of you getting a 4 today, if everything goes well, is pretty high.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly think that that news has permeated out into the crowd. Everybody here is expectant, waiting for a possible 4-second run, maybe not just from Viveca Everstedt, but from any of our Top Fuel drivers here in competition this weekend. Now, the first round puts this man, Germany's Rico Antes, seen here with his crew chief Dale Denton, against the flying Finn Risto Putiainen. Now, these two should be burning out at the same time, but we've got Rico Antes completely on his own. And if we look back, we can see Risto Putiainen's Mack Tools dragster being pushed back. The news filters through that there is no oil pressure on the engine. And with the performance that these engines push out, the one thing you need is oil flowing around the crank, the cylinders, etc. So he's sidelined, and this allows Rico Antes to solo through into the next round of competition. Not the way Rico would like to see it, certainly not what Risto was looking for. And indeed, Risto wanted to be out and take the win here, but now he's confined to the back of his car, watching his opponent, Rico Antes, go for a solo run into the next round. Rico powers away from the start line, starts to go up in smoke, clicks it off, and runs through with a 6.67, 124 miles per hour run. Well, there's one of our drivers through into the next round, and here's our next pair. Tommi Happinen from Finland, considered to be a worry by most of the drivers, up against new kid on the block, Jens Nebo from Denmark. Very much an international flavour here at the main event this weekend. Now, Tommi Happinen was our number 4 qualifier, Jens Nebo our number 2. So on paper, it should be the young Dane who takes the win, but in drag racing, anything can happen. Let's watch them as they come up to the start line. Just look at the way Peter Lantz is mothering the new kid, Jens Nebo, in his old car. And they're away together, but it's Jens Nebo who flies into the lead. A comfortable win. He takes a run, 5.20. He just gets quicker and quicker and closes down a 5.50 running Tommi Happinen. But once again, Happinen is consistent. Here's our next pair, the lady who is doing so well here this weekend. Viveca Everstedt against Great Britain's entry, Andy Carter. Andy Bad Boy Carter, a man now who has made his way up from street car racing into the Formula One of drag racing, the Top Fuel dragsters. He knows he's up against it here. He's up against a lady who has just run the quickest ever in Europe, and Viveca is asleep on the line. Andy Carter motors away, he's out in front, but he gets problems, allowing a sleeping Viveca to overtake him and take the win with a 5.46. That lady would be very, very worried. Now let's see what happens in the next round. Viveca Everstedt will meet first round quickest loser Tommi Happinen, and Rico will meet Jens. Well, no wonder this crowd are looking so happy, because we go straight from Top Fuel car onto two wheels. And the first round of the ACU UK Drag Bike Championship for Top Fuel Bike. Now here's our new man. This is Russ Cook, and on a machine which has a pedigree in Top Fuel bike racing, previously raced by a man called Phil Brackvogel. This is Steve Wollett. Now, Wollett can never, ever be discounted in Top Fuel racing. He is a consistent, low 7-second runner, speeds approaching 200 miles per hour. So Russ Cook knows He's got everything to do here. Look at the length of these bikes. And the riders have to lay prostrate along them on top of those nitro-burning injected supercharged engines. But just look at Woolett go. Comes flying out of that box, leaning left, leaning right to keep the bike running straight, takes the win with a run of 7.22. Russ Cook losing out with a 10.44. Here's our next pair coming through. Current record holder in the UK, Phil Bainbridge. Now, he is riding a bike very, very similar to Steve Woolett and currently holds the record in the UK in the 6-second bracket. He's up against Jules Boag. Jules is a man who runs what we can only nicely describe as a shoestring budget, albeit that he is riding state-of-the-art technology. And it looks as though immediately we get problems for Jules Boag. The bike being pushed back, Jules taking his crash helmet off, looking very, very dejected indeed. So it's Phil on his own. Now, he will use this as a test run, and just look at the way he has to lean that bike to the left to keep it running straight. Runs through 7.2 as the next man comes through, Henk Gave from Belgium, on an ex-Roger Forsyth motorcycle. Now, a real international flavour here from Flanders. Marc Rocher, the big guy, he's about 6'6" tall, so for a big guy you need a big bike, and he's on a Harley Davidson. He's new to the sport as well, and up against a man who's been around for a good few years, but Henk Gave has got problems. And the surprise win going to the man from Flanders, Marc Rocher on the Harley Davidson, 9.43. So, in the next round, it's going to be Woolett against Rocher, and on a bye, Phil Bainbridge. Well, if you like wild door slammers, then don't go too far away. Cars with engines the size of aeroplane engines are due to run speeds of 200 miles an hour in the 6-second bracket. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Santopod and the main event, and time for these wild door slammers. These are called Pro Mods, Pro Modified. Modified is a word we use so much in drag racing. These cars run with engines bigger than aeroplane engines. This man here, for instance, Neil Taylor, 11,500 cc's the engine underneath there, lifts up those front wheels, but he's no match for the current Pro Mod champion. Call me Al Packman with the Granada Scorpio, runs through 7.02, 198 miles an hour. Phenomenal stuff. If you like your American cars old and quick, then Henry Houston has got to be the man for you. The Dutchman with his Quake Estate-sponsored Bel Air Chevrolet from the year of 1955, running with a 10,000 cc engine. And the man with just a slight advantage over that is this man, Gordon Appleton, slightly larger engine in his Chevrolet Camaro. So it's an all Chevrolet race, Bel Air against Camaro, and the drivers really have to fight to keep these cars running straight. They have a separate gear lever for every gear. They have to make sure their left arms are wedged into the bodywork to keep the cars running straight. And then they just power these huge nitrous oxide burning machines away from the line. Henry Houston asleep on the start line. It's Gordon Appleton with a Camaro all the way, and a win time of 7.66, 178 miles per hour. Well, the next pair up are the Vauxhall Roadshow. It's an all Calibra race. This is Michael Cheeley from the West Midlands with his Vauxhall Calibra, one of the smallest engines in the whole class, and he's up against the Hellraiser man, Dave Mingay from Essex. And Dave Mingay is another man with a giant mountain motor underneath the hood of that Calibra, and it's a good race. Mingay hooks up those front wheels, powers his way through to a 7.14 win. Again, speed approaching 200 miles an hour. And Michael Cheeley loses out with a 7.7. Huge smoky burnouts from these cars. All designed to warm up the rear tyres, the compound of rubber in those rear tyres to get them traction away from the start line. And two comparatively new cars here. Furthest away from the camera, we've got Bert Englefield in his Toyota Supra. Closest to the camera, we've got the Nissan 300ZX of Nick Cavey. And there's problems for Bert Englefield. He sits on the start line, so our number 4 qualifier is out. Nick Cavey cruises through, takes the win with a run of 11.55. So let's have a look and see what happens in the semis. Alan Packman with the Granada will be against Nick Cavey. Dave Mingay with his Calibra against the Camaro of Gordon Appleton. And as we talk about it, up comes the racing, the next round. The Camaro against the Calibra. Well, Gordon Appleton knows he has it all to do here. He is up against one of the firm favourites, and he is still, Gordon, a comparative new boy in Pro Modified, having made his way up from Supergas last year. So now let's watch this start line reaction. All very, very important with these hugely powered cars, and they're away together, but just look at the power of Mingay's Calibra. He drives round and past Gordon Appleton, takes the win with a 7.10, again nearly 200 miles an hour. And let's just follow that through again as we come up to the staging beams which control the start line sequence, and it's a red light for Gordon. I thought he moved away from the start line quicker, and of course he didn't react when the green came on. He went before it came on. He's automatically eliminated. Dave Mingay takes a good win. Here's our next pair. This beautiful new car, Nick Cavey, made his way up from street car racing into the 1995 Pro Mod Series, driving this beautiful Nissan 300 ZX, another man racing with an engine size greater than 11,000 cc's. Takes some believing that. He's up against You Can Call Me Al. Al Pacman in the Granada Scorpio, a hard man to beat. And Pacman showing his competency there, lifting off the start line first, powers through to a win, 7.04, 196 miles per hour. Nick Cavey loses out with an 870, so the final is set. The two quickest cars, Alan Pacman against Dave Mingay. We move back onto two wheels once more, and this is the semi-finals of Top Fuel Bike. And the surprise, Marc Rocher from Flanders against the British man Steve Woolett. The Harley Davidson, the massive Harley Davidson, against the 1300cc nitro burning injected supercharged Puma of Woolett. And I think this is the time that Marc Rocher finds out what Top Fuel bike racing is all about, as Woolett powers through, takes the win, 7.33, but a good run for Marc Rocher, his quickest ever on that bike, 9.23 at 134 miles per hour. So we've got one man through into the final already, and this man is going to be joining Steve Woolett in the final. This is Phil Bainbridge. He is on a bye run and looking to improve his form. Now, this bike has been one of the quickest in Europe in the past, and it has had a few setbacks just recently where we haven't seen it achieve the times we know it can do. So Bainbridge is going to use this as a full practice run, leads that bike heavily over to the left again, powers through, but just look at the time now, 7.17, 187 miles an hour. That sets us up for a great final. Now, while the Top Fuel teams madly strip those engines down in preparation for their semi-finals, let's have a chat to Top Fuel driver Vivica Everstedt from Sweden for this week's Tech Talk feature on start line procedure. And who should know more about that than her?
I do my burnout and hit the throttle, and the RPM is around 1500, not more. And then I have another crew a little bit longer out, and when I see him I stop the car. Okay, I do a burnout because it's very important to heat the tires, and then because we need good traction. When I'm coming into the pre-stage, I have a lot of things to do. I mean, first, the most important thing, to engage the high side, and then after that, lift my foot from the clutch pedal. It's a very important procedure to do that. So after pre-stage, I always watching on the other guy or woman, and then I always, not always, but I prefer to go into stage first, because my concentration is much better then. After I go into stage, I got 3 yellow lights, and it's important to be away just before you see the green light. And then I hit the accelerator as quick and hard I can, and then I'm away.
Okay, let's get back to the pits now and check out the Top Fuel drivers and crews as they prepare their dragsters for the semi-finals. Vivica, if you remember, didn't follow her own advice back in the first round. She was asleep on the line, and as you can see, proof that a good start in drag racing is not quite as easy as she makes it sound. Luckily, she managed to overtake Carter at the top end and take the win. I bet she's feeling a little sorry for herself now.
Again, it was me, and I feel terrible. I mean, it's so bad because, I mean, the car, I wasn't prepared when I pre-staged, and then to stage, the car went in too quick. And then I realized that Andy, he wasn't ready. So I said to myself, wow, what should I do now? Should I mean, the high side, should I put the high side in, or should I wait? And I think I know that I engaged the high side. And then I realized, no, it's too early. And then back again.
Into the Nebo pits and to talk to last year's champion Peter Lance, who's helping out the rookie driver this year.
We have a very nice run. Well done on Jens to drive it through there. And fortunately, we hurt the crank. It spun the number 2 bearings on the crank. It means it went too lean on the 2 front cylinders, and the main bearing, crank bearings, couldn't hold it. So we got a new crank and put it in, so we have built a new engine here. Fortunately, we don't have time to warm it up, so if we get this baby done in time, let's see what happens.
Rico Antes, the German, is the man Jens Nebo will meet in the semi-finals. Let's see what he has to say.
No, we're not resting easy. We're always going for the maximum, but I mean, the setup needs to be right and everything needs to work right, and then you can go fast. So we are prepared to race him, and if he can run another 520, it's going to be an interesting run. I hope we can do a run top 520 if we can keep the tires on the ground. I think this is possible, and it's going to be a real close race.
Well, we'll see just how close it is between Rico Antes and Jens Nebo, as well as some fireworks of the nitro kind after the break. Don't go away. We're back at Sandipod, the back end of May, and the main event for Top Fuel Dragsters, the semi-final round. This is Tommy Happonen from Finland. He's racing the lady. All eyes on Vivica Avestad at the moment, but Tommy Happonen once again showing that he is going to be classed as a consistent runner against this lady. Vivica Avestad, the ex-bodybuilder, a lady who we've seen over here in the UK in all manner of different cars, from street cars to pro stocks to pro modifieds, now at the top end with the Top Fuel Dragster. She has an English crew chief who works alongside her husband, and finds herself in this round against the man who's been brought in as the quickest first round loser, Tommy Happonen. Now, Happonen has got a name, as I said, for being consistent, but he's up against this lady who's absolutely flying in the Valvoline Dragster, and then suddenly what every drag racer dreads, an engine explosion. That's the second engine they've damaged here this weekend. A costly weekend for Vivica Avestad, and look at the time for Tommy Happonen, 5.48. Vivica's perfectly okay, but there is going to be a large hole in the pocket of the Valvoline team. 2 engines destroyed, and they are going back to the drawing board to find out what is going wrong. Our next pair coming out to start their burnouts, Jens Nebo from Denmark and Rico Antes from Germany. Now, this is going to be a close one between these two. Rico was our number 5 qualifier, Jens our number 2. Now they're bringing Rico back behind the start line, but there seems to be a lot of concern for Jens Nebo. He's done his burnout and he's still up there at the 8th mile mark. Now we don't know what the problem is at this point in time. The crew for Rico Antes looking very, very concerned with these nitro burning engines. If you leave them sitting there on the start line for too long, A, the tyres get cold, so you lose traction on the start line, and B, the engines get too hot and can cause an explosion. Well, Jens really does have a problem there. It looks as though the team cannot find the reverser on the car. He has to sideline the car at the 8th mile mark. Now the crew will make him jump out, and then it will be a solo run for the German Rico Antes. What a great shame. Jens was doing so well this weekend, but Rico cracks off a storming run all on his own. 5.23, 245 miles per hour into the final against Tommy Happonen. Mr. Consistency against Mr. Quick. Well, the crowd's really showing their appreciation for Jens Nebo, and I bet he's really disappointed.
I lost the reverse gear, and that's the wire who control it. It's jump off. So
Just slipped out, and it was as simple as that.
yeah. So I couldn't get it into the reverse, and it's out.
Probably the most frustrating thing that's ever happened to you in racing, I guess.
Sure, absolutely.
And were you gutted when you had to sideline the car and get out and watch Rico go through to win very easily?
I feel bad about it, and those things happen. You can't do anything about it.
Well, Jens Nebo happy with that twist of fate? I think not. And another lady who isn't very happy with what's gone on in her racing career this weekend is Vivica Eversted. This is her last run. The Valvoline car leaves the start line along with Tommy Happinen. She's well out in front when suddenly the full destructive force of a nitro-burning engine takes over. Look at the flames, the parts dropping away from the car. And she then has to pull out the parachute and bring the car to a halt as quickly as she can. And still that engine burns. She is not a happy lady. Just look what she does with her neck brace. Real unhappiness.
No, it was not my fault. No, it was the car, so it was a shame.
What happened? I mean, there's lots of debris on the 8th mile.
Yeah, I think we kicked rods. So I mean, and I know that this is the difference between a car with around 4,000 horsepower and this is around 6,000. I mean, it happens so often in the States, but of course it's a shame when it's happened.
Did you feel those flames, or were they well behind you?
For the first time I could feel the heat, because so I said, oh, not again.
So you looked angry when you got out of the car, the top end, not scared?
Not scared, just angry.
Well, an angry lady indeed. But if we turn our attention away from the nitro burners onto these cars, Supergas. A real mix of all cars, different shapes, different sizes, different nationalities. We bring them all together in a class which has one restrictor. And the restrictor is the time that you take to get to the top end. It's 9.90. That's as quick as you can go. You can complete the quarter mile as fast as you like, providing your elapsed time is not quicker than 9.90. And what a mix of cars we get. A lot of American muscle, Camaros, Firebirds, plus also some unusual cars. We have a Willys, we have a 37 Ford Coupe, we have cars from Great Britain with American V8 engines in there. All come together in this very exciting class called Supergas. You need to react so quickly away from the start line. A perfect start line reaction is 0.4 of a second. And all of these guys who are racing in this class can react with a 0.4 and can run spot on 9.90. It's an art form. There's no other class quite like this one, and the crowd really do get involved with it. It's very exciting. The cars are very colourful, as are the drivers. Now let's wait and see what happens as we move in to our first round of Supergas. Don't forget, they're looking for 9.90 on the quarter mile. They're looking for a start line reaction of 0.4 of a second. And what happens if you react later than a 0.4, you are then in a chase situation and you stand a chance of breaking out. If you break out, if you go quicker than 9.90, if you run 9.899, you are out of competition. That's what Supergas is all about. It's exciting, it's heavily sponsored, it's a class which is growing year by year by year. We're at the main event. This is Santapod, and we are into the Supergas wars. Well, we said earlier on, you get a great mix of cars in Supergas, and this time it's all Ford. from Sidcup in Kent, Ray White with his Mark 1 Zephyr 6 against a man with a 1953 Ford Anglia. Naturally, they're not running with their original engines in these machines. Large V8 engines to give them all that power. They run with nitrous oxide injection to really boost the brake horsepower. And one of these guys looking for a place in the final. The semi-finals go through as a bye run for the winner. And it's Ray White who gets the better start line reaction in that yellow Zephyr. Looking for 990, don't forget, powers his way through, gets a time of 10.10, so just 0.2 of a second away from that class index. 113 miles an hour means he had come off of the throttle at the top end. Normally with a perfect 990, you run something like 130 miles an hour at the finish line. Here we are with our other quarter-final, and again, one of these drivers will go through into the final running a bye in the semi-finals. Last year's champion, the red and white Firebird of Brian Pateman from Southend in Essex, up against the man from Bristol, Trevor Graves, who lifts off the line, noses down a little bit while his timer takes control, his throttle stop comes into play and then lets the car accelerate, but it's just not enough. Brian Pateman takes the win, and look how close those two are, running on that 990 index, 9.98 as opposed to 9.91, and Trevor Graves lost that on the start line. Final, Ray White against Brian Pateman. Well, it's all the finals up next in all classes. And this one, the top fuel duel between the German Rico Antes and the Finn Tommy Happonen, got a little too hot for one of the drivers. All this and more after the break. Back, we're here at Santopod, the main event, the Budweiser Drag Race Series number 2 for 1995. And the final of Top Fuel Bike in the ACU UK Drag Bike Championship. Puts these two men against one another, past teammates they are, and no quarter will be given on this race. Steve Woolett on his Puma Power machine called the Dealer, and from the West Midlands, Phil Bainbridge. Almost identical machines. Bainbridge running that wing on the back of his bike, and really has been suffering some problems here, controlling these powerful nitro burning machines on the quarter mile. He's really had to be leading the bike over to get it to run straight. So what's going to happen in the final? Almost identical machines, both of these guys, both experienced racers. It's all down to start line reaction. Here we go. Well, it was Steve Woolett away first, but suddenly Phil Bainbridge has found a perfect straight run, goes powering by, and look at that time, 7:06. Wow, Bainbridge finds the form in the final just when he needs it. Steve Woolett left the start line first quite clearly, but just watch the way that Bainbridge drives by him like a steam train. Wow, what a race. Nearly 200 miles an hour from both of those guys. It's the final of Pro Modified. The two quickest cars, the numbers 1 and 2 qualifiers, meet in the final. This is how it should be. Two British cars running with massive American V8 engines in excess of 11,000 cc's. Old adversaries, they have met one another so many times in the past. Alan Packman with the Granada Scorpio, built incidentally about 7 years ago by Vivica Aversted's husband Håkan. Now raced in Pro Modified, used to be raced in Pro Stock, but up against the Calibra of Dave Mingay. This could be anybody's race. Both of these guys are excellent on start line reactions. Both of them have the capacity to run 200 miles per hour in 7 seconds. These are so powerful machines, and just look at the way they're going. Wow, every which way but straight. Who is going to reach the top end first? And it is Dave Mingay who gets to the top end. Let's just watch this. Alan Packman goes right out to the side as Dave Mingay does, but Packman goes over the white line. The power of these machines, the torque of the engine, putting Packman almost into the guardrail, but by doing that he crosses the white line. He is out of competition. Dave Mingay, not going over the white line, automatically takes the win anyway. But wow, what a great bit of driving from these two Pro Modified drivers. And Dave Mingay upsets the form belt and takes the win, 8.98, 137 miles an hour. We move on now into the final of Supergas, and as with the other classes in drag racing, our Supergas drivers warm up the compounds in their rear tyres using the burnout procedure. Now the Talco Oils Crane Cam Supergas Championship is heavily contested, and the man looking to hold on to his #1 plate from last year is the red and white Firebird man, Brian Pateman. But he's up against raging Ray White with the Pro Zephyr, the Mark 1 Zephyr, from Sidcup in Kent, and it looks as though Ray has got some problems, and indeed it is. The start line marshal is calling Brian Pateman to the line on his own. That's going to be a great shame. So we've got just one man in a final, and that is a real upset for Ray White. He has been working real hard this weekend, putting in some good times, so it allows Brian Pateman, last year's Supergas champion, to put in a run all on his own. Now he's looking for maximum points in this year's Talco Oils Crane Cams Championship, and this final run will move him up towards the top of the 1995 leaderboard. Now what sort of a run are we going to see from this man from Southend in Essex? He has the capability of running right on that 990 index, and let's watch him go through. He does it. 9.90, 132 miles an hour. That's what champs are all about. We move into the final of Top Fuel. This is Tommy Happonen.
We have a big problem. Our fuel system it's not burning enough fuel. It's some problem, but we don't find what is it.
Still haven't found it.
Yes, we work hard and we found it.
So it could be a very close final, especially if you're still running 540s.
Yes, if we can fix that car, it's run normally 520, 530, it's close.
Why is it I don't believe that man? He has been so consistent right the way through the weekend, and here he is up against Rico Antes in the final. Now Rico has been the quicker man of the two during this particular event, but Tommy has had that consistency. He's been running 550s all the time, and when you get to this level of drag racing, that takes an awful lot of beating. The two drivers go through their burnout, and certainly no sign from Tommy Happonen on the burnout that there may be a problem with his car. Rico Antes, a man still looking for that elusive 4-second run against the kid. Tommy Happonen doesn't speak a lot of English. He does his speaking out there on the track. Well, I certainly wouldn't want to lay money on this. This could go either way. It's up to the crew now whether they have put enough power into Rico Antes' machine to get up to the top end first, or whether the crew, as they suspect with Tommy Happonen's car, have backed it off a lot to save the engine exploding, and have therefore reduced his performance output. Finland against Germany. This is the final. Here they come up to the start line. The crews, having done their work, move away. Now it's down to the drivers. It's all concentration. They're looking at those start line, the Christmas tree that controls the start line sequence. The bulbs will burn down, the greens will come on, and they will be gone. Finland with the Esso Ultron car. Germany with the Dakota's Leathers car. You can feel the atmosphere in Sandipod. This is real electric. All of the crowd are up on their feet, and Rico leaves the line first of all, but up goes his engine. Look at that flame, that explosion. It is Mr. Consistency who takes the win. Tommy Happonen, he does it again. 5.45, 248 miles per hour. Wow, what a race. Now let's watch this. It was Antes all the way from the start line. Look at those front wheels headed skyward. And it looks to me as though he overpowered the track first of all, and that damaged the engine. Just look at the flames from the back of Rico Antes' car. I bet he felt the heat there. The heat was definitely on. Out come the parachutes. Onboard fire extinguishers put the majority of the fire out in that engine, but Rico would have felt the warmth from that. Here we go again. And you can see the nose of these 300-inch long dragsters really lifting up. Rico lights up those rear tyres, and in doing that explodes the engine. putting all the way down that left-hand lane. He is going to be one sore person up there at the top end. But what a dramatic final. And let's just feast our eyes on this explosion once more. Poor Rico Antes, his weekend going up in flame and allowing for the first time ever Tommi Happinen from Finland to take a win in Top Fuel in only his second year of drag racing. Well done to Tommi. And let's just have a look and see if Rico is okay. Yes, he's out of the car. Everybody very, very concerned to see what had gone on with that engine. Quite obviously a major engine explosion in there. But it doesn't seem to have fazed Rico too much. Standing there talking to his crew chief, receiving compliments from the fire crew at Sandipod Raceway and showing what a professional he is as well, not looking too upset by what has happened.
What happened?
Well, I don't know. I first thought maybe I got up in smoke and got out of it and got back in it, but then I realized there was something definitely wrong. And
when you felt it behind your head?
And I felt something behind me, then I shut it off. But it's actually what happened. I think a fuel line came off, and that created that the engine ran lean, and from there on it got well.
Expensive?
We don't know yet. We have to look at it and see. I mean, from the outside you cannot say what's damaged inside, but mostly you have some serious damage inside.
Well, here's Tommi Happinen once more, the jubilant victor of this first round of the European Top Fuel Association Series, and giving his sponsors something to really remember.
So were you going into that final expecting to win, or did you think that you might be the underdog in this race?
No, we have come here, we take it, we can win, but our car not work so good what we think, but we have good luck.
Yeah, well, winning on a 540 is very good luck.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, a man of few words, but now sitting on top of the championship pile after round one with 1,104 points from Rico Antes, Vivica Everstedt, Jens Nebo, Andy Carter and Risto Putiainen. They say winners are grinners, and Tommi's face is proof of that. What a drag race it was.